What's up everybody, this is Master Ian Gamer, and with the 2018 Archives event having delivered a satisfying amount of story and character development, particularly with regards to Blackwatch and its members, one can't help but think about the many other heroes in Overwatch who are still in desperate need of some love from Blizzard's writers. Many characters who've been around long before the game ever even launched still feel like strangers with barren backstories and minimal development. So in this video, I'm going to be counting down the top 5 most story-deprived heroes in Overwatch. And without further ado, let's jump right on in. Coming in at number 5, we have the ever-controversial Symmetra. While many players may debate over her balance and role in the game, I think everyone can agree that she's subpar in the story department. Looking at what little we do know about her, she grew up in an impoverished post-Omnic town in India, until the Vishkar Corporation identified her as having immense potential as a hard light architect. She was sent to Vishkar's Architect Academy, where she honed and perfected her hard light bending skills, before being sent around the world to uphold the corporation's interests and expand its influence. This is where we come to the greatest source of Symmetra's lore, which is her A Better World comic. In it, we learn that she's not only on the autism spectrum, but also is dealing with a tremendous moral impasse when it comes to Vishkar and its members, particularly Sanjay. The destructive actions of Vishkar in Rio de Janeiro makes her question whether or not both she and the corporation are really making the world a better place, or if that's simply a vice disguised as a humanitarian effort. And this is where I believe there is the greatest potential for Blizzard to expand her story. While she's fairly distant from both the Overwatch organization and the game's main storyline, there is loads that could be developed regarding the actions of Vishkar and how Symmetra deals with it. Given that they are one of the major corporations in the Overwatch universe, I'm sure everyone would welcome some more story pertaining to their motives and purpose, especially given that we know Sanjay has ties with Talon. It would be a great way to expand on one of the game's more story-starved heroes, and given that Sanjay could possibly be a future playable hero himself, maybe we'll see him get more development as well alongside Symmetra. Real quick now, before I move on to the next hero, I just want to remind you to subscribe and turn on notifications to keep up with all my future Overwatch content. Anyways, coming in now at number 4, we have Mercy. Mercy is both a fan favorite as well as one of the earliest developed heroes, which makes the fact that she has very little story and known background quite strange. We know that she was orphaned as a child, with her parents being victims of what we assumed to be the Omnic crisis. Growing up, she was a medical prodigy and was a family friend of the Lindholms, being Torbjorn, Ingrid, and likely their daughter Brigitte. Both of these factors were major components leading to her integration into Overwatch once she grew older. As a member of Overwatch, she was renowned for her medical accomplishments both on and off the field of battle. However, given that her peaceful ideologies often conflicted with Overwatch's militaristic ventures, she ultimately ended up leaving the organization not long before it was disbanded by the UN, and has since been working as a doctor wherever people need her. We know from her voice lines in game that she's hesitant to support Winston's Overwatch recall, likely due to her own differences with them in the past. Despite being such a prominent character in the game and very closely tied to the main storyline of the Overwatch lore, she has yet to get her own comic, animated short, or really anything. The most she's had was a secondary role in the Uprising comic, which still isn't very much. As for what kind of story we hopefully will get to further develop and flesh out her character, I think we'd most likely get a glimpse of her time in Overwatch, with a focus on the disagreement she had with their militaristic methods. I also wouldn't be surprised to see some kind of character dynamic with Moira, given that they have both worked in similar fields, but obviously have drastically different ideologies with regards to science. And look into any interactions these two may have had in the past, or even just Mercy trying to cope with Overwatch's military activities could make for a great comic or animated short. Moving on now to number 3, we have the non-pro StarCraft player d.va. Like Mercy, d.va is certainly a fan favorite hero. However, she doesn't possess the luxury of being closely tied to the main Overwatch storyline, which so far has meant that she's seen even less character development than the previous heroes on this list. Starting out as a pro gamer, she eventually was recruited by the Korean military to become a mech pilot in Mecha, otherwise known as the Mobile Exoforce of the Korean Army. Prior to her recruitment, Mecha has been fighting off a massive Omnic which time and time again rose out of the East China Sea and ravaged their nation. Eventually, the Omnic began to disrupt the military's drone control networks, which then forced the military to find human pilots. And for some reason or another, pro gamers became some of the best candidates for this kind of job, hence why d.va ended up joining. As for what kinds of news story we could end up getting for her, we actually already have a fairly in-depth knowledge of her backstory. Given that she's only 19, it seems unlikely that there's really much more to tell about her past. She may have some kind of interesting relationship with her father, as one of her data-mined voice lines translates to say that she can't actually beat him at StarCraft. However, I do believe that she has the greatest potential when it comes to her transition into and time spent serving in Mecha. As I talked about quite heavily in one of my past videos, the life of a soldier isn't as whimsical and entertaining as d.va makes it out to be. We know that she takes the fate of South Korea quite seriously, as expressed in some of her in-game voice lines.
The destruction caused by the Omnics here, it reminds me of home.
A possible comic or animated short for her might show her transition from pro gamer to mech pilot, and could emphasize the stark differences between a digital game and real life and death. Maybe we'd get to see her on her first mission, or even when she makes the decision to abandon her life of fame to help protect her homeland. No matter what it is, I think all the d.va mains out there would love to get any kind of new story development for her, no matter what exactly it ends up covering. Moving on now to number 2 on the list, we have the skate man himself, Lucio. Born in the slums of Rio de Janeiro, he spent his early days enjoying the sports of hockey and football. However, one day he decided that he wanted to do something to help the troubled people of post-Omnic Crisis Brazil, and the solution he found was music. Using music, he could help bring people together and lift their spirits, which ultimately started to bring him more and more fame throughout his home. However, his fame peaked with the arrival of Vishkar in Rio de Janeiro. Claiming to improve their lives through redeveloping the city, in actuality they became dictators who controlled the people and exploited them for cheap labor. Outraged by the Vishkar invaders, Lucio stood up to this new threat by stealing their sonic and hardlight technologies, which he used to build his iconic skates and repurpose his music to rally the Brazilian people in an uprising against their new oppressive rulers. This made him explode in popularity, and he overnight became both an international celebrity and a symbol of positive social change. Like d.va, Lucio is fairly young, so there likely isn't much new that we could see revealed regarding his backstory. However, the things we already know are so impressive that they would be perfect for a new animated short or even just a new comic. Showing us a visualization of his fame and positive influence over the people of Brazil would be amazing, and the Rio uprising against Vishkar could make for some great action. Also, given that Symmetra was present at the time of Vishkar's redevelopment in Brazil, this comic or cinematic could stand to benefit both underdeveloped heroes. These two are so similar and yet so different that there's tons of potential for further developing their relationship. Both strive to help society, but one does it through creating a sense of community, and the other through constructing strict rules and order. While their in-game interactions already highlight the stark visionary differences they have, it would be even better to see it represented through the visual storytelling of a comic or animated short. This leads us now to the number 1 most story-deprived hero on the entire roster, and that's Zenyatta. While most Overwatch heroes have at least relatively fleshed out backstories or origins, Zenyatta's almost doesn't exist at all. Formerly a member of the Shambali monks, these were a group of Omnics who, after the events of the Omnic Crisis, underwent some kind of spiritual awakening. They each abandoned their pre-programmed lives and established a communal monastery in the Himalayas. Here, they meditated for several years before coming to the belief that, just like humans, they too possess the essence of a soul. Led by the late Tekartha Mandata, they sought to heal the wounds created in the Omnic Crisis by bringing both humans and robots together in societal harmony. This message touched millions across the globe, and they essentially became international celebrities. However, this is simply the story of the Shambali. Zenyatta in particular came to disagree with this idea of world healing through dogmatic teaching, and believed that the true solution was through interpersonal connection and engagement. Thus, he eventually left the other monks and set out on his own to wander the world and help anyone he could. And this is where his known backstory comes to an end. We know that at some point he becomes acquainted with cyborg Genji, who had previously left Overwatch and was now wandering the world himself in search of his identity and purpose. Once together, Zenyatta helps Genji to find peace with his cyborg body, but beyond this, we know nothing of what Zenyatta has done during his travels. One of his in-game voice lines states that Genji was one of his brightest pupils, which indicates that he has helped many others besides just the young Shimada brother. Who were these other students? Were they human, omnic, or perhaps both? Where has he traveled, and what kinds of people has he met? What was the awakening that he and the other Shambali monks experienced? And perhaps most intriguingly, what is the Iris? There are so many questions regarding Zenyatta's past and the experiences he's had, and yet so little has been revealed. An animated short or comic would be amazing, but honestly, even just a little bit of story on the blog would be tremendously welcome for his character. Without a doubt, he has the least developed and explained backstory, and also seems to have some of the most character development potential. Whether it's an explanation of his initial enlightenment, a look into his abandonment of the Shambali faith, or details regarding his deep relationship with Genji, any and all of this news story would be welcome. But anyways, this is why, without a doubt, I rank Zenyatta as the most story-starved hero in all of Overwatch. And with that, thank you all for watching. Do you agree with the 5 heroes I picked, or would you have gone with different ones? Either way, let me know your thoughts in both the comments below, as well as by voting in today's poll card. Be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and turn on notifications to both help out my channel, and keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time, have a great day.